India is a vast and diverse country, both in terms of its natural environment and the people. It has lofty mountains in the north, great river valley plains in the middle, Deccan Plateau and the coastal plains in the south, flanked by two island groups, Andaman and Nicobar Islands to the east in the Bay of Bengal and the Lakshadweep Islands to the west in the Arabian Sea. For centuries, the Indian people have interacted and responded to their specific landscape and environment, depicting a distinct regional form. Of the two island groups, the Lakshadweep and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the latter is bigger. It comprises of 572 islands, though only about 36 islands are inhabited. These islands appear as tiny dots, forming a bow in the Bay of Bengal. But strategically, their location is very important because they link Europe and Africa with Southeast Asia and East Asia. Both these islands are separated by 150 kilometers sea, popularly called 10-degree channel. It is very rough and turbulent, making the sailing of ships across the channel difficult. No wonder, the Nicobar Islands are even less accessible than the Andamans. Situated between approximately 92 degrees east and 94 degrees east longitudes, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands are 1,200 kilometers off the eastern coast of India. It extends over approximately 800 kilometers north to south between 6 degree north and 14 degree north latitudes. In fact, this island group is closer to many Southeast Asian countries than the mainland of India. For example, the Aceh head of Sumatra Island of Indonesia is only about 135 kilometers from the southern tip of the southernmost island of Nicobar, now known as Indira Point. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands were originally inhabited by a number of tribes. Their number has dwindled over the years. The main groups being Jarva, Andamanese, Onge, Sentinels and Nicobaris. Some of them have mixed so well with the people coming from the mainland and settling on these islands later. But a few still prefer to be isolated. A glimpse of their life is beautifully reflected in the Anthropogical Museum at Port Blair, the capital of Andaman. It is an exquisite small museum showcasing the various lifestyles and wide collection of tools and weapons used by different tribes. The history of the islands can be traced further, prior to the British colonial policy in India. There are references to these islands by travellers such as Itzing and Marco Polo, who sailed by these islands at different points of time. It was in the 17th century CE that the Andaman and Nicobar Islands attracted the attention of colonial powers such as the Dutch, the Danish and the Moravians. In the 18th century, Lord Cornwallis, the Governor-General of India, dispatched Captain Archibald Blair and Colonel Colebrook to survey these islands. Based on their report, the British government decided to establish the first ever settlement in the Andamans in 1789 on the Chatham Island. But Chatham was abandoned later, owing to scarcity of fresh water. In 1792, the colony shifted to another location, then named as Port Cornwallis, but later renamed as Port Blair. Today, Port Blair appears as a picturesque hill station, surrounded by hills and lush green trees, with long and well-paved winding roads dotted by small houses and shops. There is no sign of any high-rise apartments or buildings which would otherwise have marred the beauty of this quaint little town. There is something unique about this hill station though. It is surrounded by the sea from all sides. It appears to be hilly, yet the climate here is very hot and humid. It is hard to believe that these beautiful islands had once earned the dubious distinction of being referred to as Kala Pani or Black Water. There was a time when the Andamans, characterized by heavy rains, thick jungles and hostile tribes, was not conducive to human habitation. Some believe that the dark-colored water of the Bay of Bengal and the thick dark clouds that loom over the islands have earned the islands this distinction. The expression Kala Pani thus meant the dark water of death, a metaphor for those isolated islands, for the cruel, inhuman trials and tribulations of the prisoners of the cellular jail. The cellular jail in Port Blair is perhaps the most significant and prominent landmark of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now a national memorial, it is no less than a pilgrimage for anyone visiting the islands. Every brick in this monument seems to convey a story of untold suffering of those who sacrificed their lives for the love of their country. With the freedom movement picking up momentum, the British felt the need for a high-security jail that could hold a large number of prisoners in solitary confinement. And thus began the construction of the historic cellular jail. Starting in the year 1896, it eventually got completed in 1906. The first of its kind in India, this unique three-storied structure having 698 cells was spread as 7 spokes of a wheel. And perhaps that's why it was called the cellular jail. In the center of the 7 wings of the jail was built the central tower, so that a single guard on duty could supervise all the 7 wings from his vantage position. Dedicated to the nation as an edifice, it is today a national memorial. It has been revamped to make it conducive for visitors. One of its wings has been converted to a hospital. A unique feature of the jail was the total absence of communication between prisoners in the different wings, since the front of the one row of cells faced the back of the other. A small ventilator was located high up the wall. The long, endless corridors, each about 4 feet wide, seemed to reverberate with the sound of heavy footsteps of the wardens. There were no lights, no toilets, no reading material, and the food served was not fit for human consumption. The pitiable conditions of the inmates have been put on record by some of the prisoners. Veer Savarkar, in his book, The Story of My Transportation for Life, has given a vivid account of the hardships and suffering the prisoners underwent in the jail. The infamous gallows, where prisoners were hanged, was strategically located. Any prisoner going to the gallows had to walk through the entire corridor so that inmates of each cell could watch and undergo mental agony. When you walk down the meandering road leading up to the circuit house, you can't help but simply gaze at the vastness of the sea on the other side of the road. You can see innumerable ferries ferrying people to their destinations, to Ross Island, Neil Island, or Viper Island. From Port Blair, Ross Island seems to be just a stone throws away. That's when you realize how easy it was for the British to oversee the penal settlement at Port Blair from Ross Island, which functioned as their headquarters. Today, Ross Island resembles a ghost town, with almost all the buildings in ruins. Yet, it does not deter the large number of tourists being ferried on steamers and on boats to visit this island. Simply because a visit to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands can never be complete without looking at the remnants of the grandeur and lavishness of the British establishment in Ross Island. What is striking to note is the organised manner in which the British administration ran the islands and how self-contained it was. True to their character, they preserved the class distinctions of the time. A club for the upper-class whites and another for the subordinates. While the residences of the British officers and soldiers' barracks were situated on a hilltop, the convicts and barracks of Indian soldiers were located below. The ruins look haunted, with branches of trees and creepers entwined around them. The remnants of typical British architecture are evident in the ruins. The roots of the trees have held on to the last dying pillars of a few buildings. It appears as if the trees do not want to let go the symbols of habitation. It looks quite artistic, but it also seems to indicate the feelings of solitude that those who lived here may have experienced. Despite its haunted and abandoned look, the ruins only add to the mysterious charm of a place that a large number of us will only read about in history books. In the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, 50% of the total area is tribal reserves, national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. While 11.5% area is covered with mangrove forests. The mangrove belt spreads along the water's edge in sheltered places and in creeks which penetrate deep in the islands. The islands are one of the richest mangrove areas in the world in terms of quality and variety. The mangroves played a very important role in protecting the islands from the fury of tsunamis on December 26, 2004, the devastating signs of which are still evident. Tsunamis are a result of earthquakes, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands fall under very high seismic zone 5. An earthquake's verdict on the Chief Commissioner's bungalow in Mount Harriet can still be witnessed. The British had made Mount Harriet as their summer capital. Temperature is comparatively low in this hilly area. It is the highest point in South Andaman, about 365 meters above sea level. The park can be reached from Port Blair by ferry. The topography varies from steep slopes to gentle slopes with undulating terrain. The park is covered with dense evergreen and semi-evergreen forests of outstanding natural beauty. It is also interesting to know that this is the place on the way to Mount Harriet from where the picture depicted on the back of a 20 rupee currency note is shot. Mount Harriet is known for another historical event as well. It was here that Sher Ali assassinated Lord Mayo, the Viceroy of India, when he was visiting these islands. Sher Ali was later hanged in Viper Island. The population of the islands cannot be grouped into communities, especially of those who are local born, because the convicts and freedom fighters who were brought here belonged to different communities from India and Myanmar. These communities have coexisted since then and have got so well infused with each other that it is difficult to identify one from the other. They all lead a very secular life. Inter-religion marriages are a common practice here, and irrespective of religion or beliefs, everybody participates in each other's festivals. People living here hail from all parts of India. You can see the diversity of respective regions in them, but a common thread that binds them is the language. They all speak Hindi. Another important aspect or a landmark in Andaman and Nicobar Islands is the sawmill, situated in Chatham Island, a very small piece of land close to Port Blair. 100 meters long, Chatham Bridge connects this island with Port Blair. This historic bridge was initially constructed out of timber. During the British period, convicts were forced to do all types of work, from carrying heavy logs to cutting and manufacturing furniture. Chatham sawmills stood as a spectator to the rise and fall of various regimes in the islands. The mill converted huge quantities of timber for catering to the requirements of the Western world. The onset of the Second World War spelled doom for the giant mill. Being located in the strategically important area, the mill succumbed to the spate of heavy Japanese bombs on 10th March 1942. The museum at the mill has a lot of stories to tell. Even now, all major timber trees of the islands are used as raw material in the mill. The most important species being Padok, Gurjan and Silver Grey. Baratung Island is situated 101 km from Port Blair. We cross through the Jarva Reserve Forest to reach Baratung. It is dotted with numerable limestone caves. Here, you can see a limestone cave which is located at Nayadera in Baratung Island. Huge deposit of limestone in the form of stalagmite, stalactite, column, sinkholes and caves make beautiful patterns. This island is also known for its mud volcanoes. A mud volcano is usually a small and very temporary structure. It is created by emission of natural gases from organic matter underground. Along with the natural gases, mud oozes out and spills over the edge, which grows in size, and a miniature volcano is formed with a rich, creamy mud crater at the top. The mud outflow during an eruption is cold. The cone or lack of it depends on the viscosity of mud. There are 11 mud volcanoes reported so far from Andaman Group of Islands. The waters of the Andamans, rich in coral reefs and marine life, have long been acknowledged as one of the best preserved diving sites in the world. Tourism is the main economy now. Once considered a dreaded place, the Andamans have come a long way to become the most sought-after destination in the world today.